are going to go ahead and start. So welcome, everyone. Welcome. You are watching Digging Deeper. My name is Tazeen. I'm your host. We are here every Tuesday at 7 p.m. sharp. I think we were a minute late today, but it's raining like crazy outside, so forgive us. Today's topic is really special because it's extremely relevant in these times. So it is creative writing for historic justice issues. And with me, I have a very special guest. So I've got Aishah Gulam with us.
Hello.
And I've known her for quite some time. We grew up in the same community.
Literally, it's so crazy. This is the first time I'm officially hanging out with Tazeen. We've known each other for 20 years.
True. I don't think we've ever actually hung out.
I swear to God, 20 years. Just put that in perspective.
But now we're going to hang out and have a conversation.
Exactly.
And it's live and global.
Yep.
So we're excited about that.
Yes.
So before we jump into the topic, Faf is on. Hi, Faf.
Hello.
I guess, so I like to let the guests tell us about themselves in their own perspective. Okay. So if you could tell us a little bit about who you are and what's your expression.
Yeah, so I am a writer, a poet, a spoken word artist. Officially, my day job, I work in human resources, but I am passionate about poetry, about written, any sort of written expression, whether it's poetry, essays, what have you. Even all Facebook statuses, honestly, that's a form of writing as well.
Yeah.
So,
and you always have stuff on your Instagram that I love reading.
Thank you.
I love little short stanzas and short poetry because it's it hits you really quick.
Yes.
You just read a few lines and it hits you.
Yep. Yeah. And another thing is I'm director of development for the Institute of Muslim Mental Health. Okay. So I have a passion for that as well. So.
I was actually looking that up on our way here and I was like, oh, she's a director of development. I was
God.
like, fancy name. What is that? What do you do? What does that entail?
So I do fundraising efforts and initiatives and things like that. I also write grants for a number of organizations, not just for the Institute. So
I should hit you up then.
If you want.
For grant writing stuff.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, Jordan's on too. Hi, Jordan.
Hello, Jordan.
So let's jump right into it. I've got my notes here of things that we wanted to talk about. But the first thing is, so we are talking about poetry, we're talking about writing, creative writing, whatever it is, for social justice or for the purpose of social justice. So could you shed light a little bit about how did that become something of interest for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I've always had an interest in any sort of social justice, anything.
Yeah.
But I didn't understand the proper way to orate what I was feeling.
Yeah.
So I guess a lot of times people assume that with social justice, it has to be an op-ed in Newsweek or it has to be in the Atlantic or whatever,
Post or
exactly,
something.
Exactly. And I was like, okay, nobody has the attention span to read an entire
not
5-page article in Newsweek, you know? So making bite-sized poems or very short essays about the things that matter to humanity was very important to me. Yeah. And just sharing that with the world is what I felt like people would be very interested in. Yeah. So I guess now our attention span has shifted from reading entire essays or entire articles to more bite-sized news things. So that's sort of how I became interested in the topic.
Which makes sense. I mean, Facebook, Twitter, it's all just one-liners, two-liners.
Yeah.
And even in teaching, I have such a hard time getting my students to read anything beyond a couple of pages.
I bet. And you teach Arabic, right?
Yeah.
So I guess is a lot of the conversation steered around what's happening in the Arab world or
what's happening in the Arab world, but also issues within the Arab community within the United States.
Okay.
So it's a lot of different things that we talk about, but if I give them an article or if I give them something, I don't do that as much anymore just because they don't tend to read through the whole thing.
Okay. Yeah, I bet. See, that's exactly why I started writing, poetry and posting on Instagram about the things that I feel passionate about that impacts humanity. So a lot of what I write about, to be honest, Tazeen, is sexual violence, violence against women, oppression of women, because I'm a woman myself. So I feel very strongly about that topic.
Well, that was going to be the next question that I was going to ask you because a lot of the stuff that you do post on Instagram has to do with women's issues and violence and what is something, obviously, we're women, so these things affect us. But beyond that, what are some things that really drew you towards that topic and made you feel like I need to say something?
That's a great question. So, of course, growing up in a Muslim community, in a predominantly South Asian Muslim community, a lot of issues are taboo.
Yeah.
Right? For example, sexual violence, sexual assault, rape, molestation, just domestic violence, battered women. It's such a taboo topic in our community. We both grew up in the same community, so I know you know what I'm talking about,
absolutely.
right? So witnessing all of that, I realized that women a lot of times speak from first person perspective. Like, I was a victim of this. I felt this way. And I was like, what better way to share those stories than through poems, than through short stories? And, just humanizing the topic in general was very, very important to me. And making sure that I provided the perspective from a woman, by a woman, about women's issues was very important as well. And I guess, like, we would always try to host these events at the masjid about, abuse, about violence that impacted women. And a lot of times they said no, they wouldn't host that type of event. And I was like, okay, well, I have a platform, and I actively decided that I need to start the conversation about these things. And I think one of the biggest things for women and even men is feeling like you're alone in something is probably the worst thing that you can go through. And sharing that you are going through something and somebody reads that and says, wow, I've dealt with that myself, goes a long way for the healing process.
That is huge, because just knowing that somebody went through something creates a sense of community without even having to have a deeper conversation about it. Just knowing that I'm not alone in this.
Right.
And it's interesting because, like she was saying, we grew up in the same masjid community. And I do remember there was an event. Somebody came in to talk about domestic violence and issues within familial relationships. And she had found that there was, I forget what the percentage was, but some crazy amount of percentage of domestic abuse that was happening in the community, especially with the older women who are in the community, who are, most of them immigrants, and not feeling like they have a voice.
Okay.
And so I think it's so important for us and for our generation to speak up about those things, especially for people who feel like they can't speak up about those things.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think a lot of it stems from the fact that women have been isolated. Even men, I don't just speak for women, I speak for men as well, because a lot of the emotions that both women and men feel in abusive situations are the same. It's not exclusive to certain genders.
We're not excluding men from the conversation.
Right.
Yeah. So hi to Christina. I know you said hi. Cool, people coming back. Look, everyone's back.
Cool.
So let's talk a little bit about the topic at hand. So you came up with this topic, right? So we talked about creative writing, whether it's poetry or a few lines or whatever it is, sharing your thoughts. Right. But what do you mean by historic social justice issues? Why did you choose that?
Great question. So historic social justice issues, what I mean by that is there's certain things that have impacted humanity from the beginning of mankind, right? Like violence against women, persecution, religious persecution. All of these things have been impacting mankind or womankind since the beginning of time.
Absolutely.
And those are historic social justice issues, right? Because they have like a constant motion with humanity. So talking about those things, and what I mean by modern creative writing is basically creating pieces that address those historic issues and making it more approachable and relatable for the population right now. And one of the things that I was thinking of actually driving here was Martin Luther. I forgot what denomination he was a part of, but not Martin Luther King. Martin Luther, who is the Christian, leader, he had posted on the church various things that he was outcrying against a certain other Christian sect. I think it was like he was Protestant or Lutheran, speaking out against the Catholic Church, something along those lines. And he wrote this entire piece, and he posted it on the church door. Things that he was denouncing. And I was thinking about that, and it was religious persecution, right?
Yeah.
So he was posting about that, and he wrote it in such a way that it wasn't more so like just this expository writing piece. It was more so like, it was poetic in nature. So writing about social justice issues doesn't necessarily have to be essay form. It could be in different mediums, poetry, artwork, writing, anything.
Well, I think that's the important thing about activism in general, is that there's so many forms of activism and there's so many forms of expression. And people are always hating on millennials and like new age social media and like all this stuff.
Yes,
and they're always hating on it. We talked about this in Mahogany's episode about advocacy and activism, and how as times are changing and what mediums we use are changing, we just got to flow with it.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And there will always be people that vilify the current generation and say, oh, well, what do you know about activism when you have all this instant gratification? Yeah. But that's the way the world works now. And we have to go with the flow, just like you said. We have to go with what is current, what's hot, in order to inspire a new generation. Yeah. And I think that's what happened with the Parkland shooting as well. A lot of these kids actually use social media to put out what they wanted to say, and that's what Emma Gonzalez did as well. It wasn't just her speech that she put, it was like her Twitter feed and her social media feed and everything like that made people be like, wow, this is someone that could speak about an issue. Violence has been around since the beginning of mankind, right? It's not just about guns, it's about violence in general too. That's true. And she used what's hot with the current generation in that platform. So,
and it's really interesting too, because now with social media, like with Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, all of these things that we're using, you can reach so many more people.
Yes.
So it's you might have an event, right? And you can only reach a certain number of people if you just post flyers up. Like, right. That's what we used to do in the past. Yeah. But now it's like Facebook event, Eventbrite, it's on Instagram. Like even on this, like I posted it, you posted it, a bunch of people posted it. Yeah. And I always get people who are on, and I'm like, this is great. I don't know who you are. I don't know what network you're from, but it's amazing that we're able to have this conversation together.
Yeah, human connectivity is the most important component right now. And the way that we're connecting individual to individual is obviously through social media. Yeah. Just like you said, back in the day, we used to just post flyers in a specific geographical location.
On cars in specific lots.
Literally in the Mushroom parking lot, putting it under their wipers and hoping that somebody would see us and see what we're doing. Yeah. But now it's a lot easier to do it. And I think I obviously have to address the negative things about that. The negative things are that we have a very short attention span as well. True. So immediately when something happens in the news cycle, something else happens, and it happens in such a way that it's instant, right? So like Parkland shooting happened. Okay, before that, like Orlando, San Bernardino, and nobody really had the proper time to address this specific event. But one of the positive things about it is it's a constant underlying factor. Violence, constant underlying factor. And that's the thing that people are talking about constantly and consistently, regardless of the event. So
what's one of the ways then, because you're so involved in a lot of different things, so you must be really up to date with the news and really up to date with a lot of personal issues with people as well, especially with like the Muslim health and Muslim community, and not just Muslims, but everyone else. What are some ways that you use poetry as a means of healing for yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, poetry doesn't necessarily have to be reactive, right? I think that a lot of times people assume that, particularly with poetry, has to be like a love ballad or a sonnet or some really sad sort of thing. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. I mean, I think in the beginning, of course, every poet knows this. This is a line in one of my poems. The ink of my pen is the tears that I've cried. Because honestly, like when you so honestly, I mean, when you're going through pain, you automatically gravitate to writing something, right? But I think a lot of, for me, why I've used poetry as a healing means is because it's something that I'm honest with myself about the things that hurt me. And if somebody relates to that, that's why I started posting it. If somebody relates to that, that makes me feel even more better about myself. And that's part of the healing process as well. I think that, particularly with relationships that I've been through, and I've been through some very abusive relationships, it's been a very huge healing process for me. And it's been very therapeutic. So I'm very grateful for that. And I'm grateful for social media, as weird as that may sound to a lot of people. But I'm grateful because we get our validation from people saying, hey, I understand what you're going through. I've been through it myself. And it's not just validation for you, but it's validation for the other person as well. Yep.
That is the beautiful thing about it. And what allows for that healing space to sort of come into fruition through that poetry is that you are allowing yourself to be open and vulnerable.
Yes.
And I think that's really hard, especially when, you know, certain community members or in certain spaces, it's taboo for women to speak about certain things, or it may be taboo for Muslims to speak about certain things, or, you know, if you're a part of the LGBTQ community, to be open about what you believe in and how you practice and what is affecting you. And I feel like it takes a lot of courage to be open, to be vulnerable, and to say, something's going on, guys. It's the rain.
It's raining. It's raining.
It's the rain. It takes a lot of courage to say, I'm just going to be vulnerable. I'm going to be open. I'm going to express and share my experiences.
Yeah.
And some people may say something negative.
Right.
But there's something beautiful that can come out of that sharing.
Absolutely. Just one person sharing your pain and understanding it is the entire 7 billion people that may be on Earth today. That's what it equals to me.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's always like this cliche with writers, write about what you know.
Yeah.
And what I know is not directly, but violence against women, oppression of women, abuse against women. That's what I know, and that's why I write about those things. Yeah.
What have you gotten backlash, or have you had to deal with people who have been like, okay, you need to calm it down?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. A lot of the questions I get asked is about my family. If my family has a certain thing to say about it. And my family's always been very supportive.
Yeah.
Particularly my mom. My mom actually, so I've been writing poetry for a very long time, ever since I was 7. And I've, you know, alhamdulillah, I've won awards for the poetry that I've written. And my mom, she saw that I wasn't writing anymore. And she was like, okay, this is not like you. So she actually brought she actually brought a trophy that I had won that was in the attic, stashed away. And she was like, listen, you need to start writing again. This is your God-given talents, and you need to start writing again.
That's beautiful.
So my family's always been supportive. In terms of, like, the overall community, I mean, they've been supportive, but of course, naturally, there's always backlash, right? Like, why are you writing about rape? Why are you putting Muslims in such a negative light? Why are you saying that rape happens in the Muslim community when we have protections against those things? I've, of course, received that type of backlash. It hurts. It makes you feel like you should not be talking about those things, that you need to have a PhD or you need to have some sort of, academic accolade in order to talk about those things. But my degree is being a human being. My degree is being a woman. And I believe that that's enough for me to speak about those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So if someone does ask you, do you respond?
I do, yeah. I toned it down a lot. I know a lot of people probably know that I am very much like combative.
Watch her Insta story and you'll know what's going on.
Oh yeah, like, but not even just limited to Instagram. Like, I remember this one time. Okay, I'm just going to say it. Might as well. Like, the Nak controversy, the Numan Ali Khan controversy, right? If you're familiar, you're familiar. I posted about, how I felt about it and things like that. Random people that I didn't even know had an opinion about it. They were like, who are you to be talking about this Muslim brother? He teaches Quran. He's a teacher, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, listen, dude, like, I don't even know you. Like, I just friended you because we had more than 5 mutual friends. Like, that's the only reason we're friends right now, and I don't even know you. There was this one person who was like, yeah, I know your father. He wouldn't, like, approve of you doing this. I'm like, where do you think I've been socialized to say these things, like, from my house, you know? So it's always very interesting. People take out of context what you're saying, and they create their own little, story.
For those who don't know the situation, it's just a religious teacher who everyone called scholar, and I was just like, he's not a scholar. But anyways, there was spiritual abuse, basically. At the heart of it.
Yeah, and people were debating, like, what that means and trying to define it.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, what's spiritual abuse? I'm like, oh, well, the Catholic Church is...
there you go.
The abuse
Here's some examples.
Exactly, yeah. So the Catholic Church, for example, everyone knows about the priests and things like that would molest little boys. That's spiritual abuse. And he wasn't, Numan Ali Khan was basically essentially doing kind of the same thing, but obviously with women that were consenting. But you will consent to a man that is, that has power, that has religious power and stature.
And the thing is, that story was not just a singular story. Like, that story was a story of so many, it was in so many different communities. Like, that was a story that I had heard so many times. Not only heard, but knew people who went through those things, you know? And from whatever community you're a part of, it doesn't have to be a religious community, but whatever community you're a part of, to deny that abuse happens and to deny that violence happens is really to not be helpful to your community. It's not progressive
100%.
at all.
Yeah, exactly. And it actually inhibits your spirituality. Yeah. Because you look at these religious figures, as much as people say, they're only human beings, whatever. Yeah. When you're a certain religious leader of a certain community or a certain mosque, you associate that person with that mosque. Yeah. So if you're facing abuse from that very person that represents said mosque,
not just your mosque, but your faith, too.
Yeah, your faith. Yeah. So you're going to feel a certain type of way about your faith as well. So... yeah, so I have received backlash, and quite frankly, it hurts, but I just don't care.
But you can't let it stop you from what you're doing. That's what activism is about. And Mahogany had said it too in her episode. She's like, if it's about you, it's probably not activism. Ooh. So if you're,
that's a good
I know, point. Think about that one for a little bit. Wow. And if you are putting out this type of information and poetry and whatnot, because not just for yourself, but because you care about the well-being of your community and you care about the well-being of other women, for us. And that's the thing that's so hard is I feel like women, like we need to support one another. We need to love one another. We need to just be happy for one another.
Right.
Like the whole jealousy thing or whatever. I think sometimes it's really disheartening to see that, because now that I've been doing Digging Deeper, sometimes I get random messages that are negative. I haven't gotten that many, but I've had a couple.
Like what? Like what would be like a specific type of
message? Oh, like you're a woman and you're covered and you shouldn't be playing music, or you shouldn't be, in certain spaces, or you shouldn't be whatever. And for me, it's like, well, the music that I play is a spiritual art form. It's a way to connect with the divine. Yeah. So instead, even if you disagree with it, even if you feel like that's not for you, at least be supportive that, wow, she's doing something she loves and she's doing something that she truly believes in.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And if that's your way of attaining spirituality, that's your way of attaining spirituality. Yeah. I mean, it's not like, it's not going against any concrete teaching. It's the way that you become closer to God in your own version. So.
In your own way, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's important. Like, find that thing that lights you up, that you think about all the time, that that makes you feel like you have purpose in your life.
That's it. Yeah, just feeling like you have purpose, and that's why I write poetry and post it, right? Yeah. Because if anyone can relate to my poems and say, wow, I understand what she's going through, I feel validated in my own emotions, that goes a long way for me. Yeah. And there obviously is always like a social justice component in what I write about. Yeah. Because even if it's something like I'm writing from a reactive base where, okay, I'm heartbroken and I'm writing about heartbreak. Yeah. That in itself is a social justice issue, right? Like not hurting the people that you claim to love, not hurting the people that you're supposed to respect. That's a very social justice issue.
True.
That goes for many different things. Yeah. So.
Yeah. That's interesting because it completely broadens the scope.
Yes, yeah. It doesn't have to necessarily align with what's in the news cycle, social justice. Yeah. I think a lot of times people mistake social justice for being something that is on CNN, that it has to be something political, and it doesn't necessarily have to be that at all. It could be something that's very individual, that a lot of people feel collectively. And I think that goes for anything that you write about. Yeah. Any form of writing, you're writing for somebody to read it. Yeah. Yeah, even if you're writing in your diary and you don't want anyone to read it, kind of in the back of your mind, you're like, if somebody reads this, I want them to understand. Yeah. Like, you don't put something out there hoping that it just stays there.
The whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Let's see, we got a bunch of people. The music is dope. Thank you. Aww. Amen. Oh, both my sisters are on.
Yay! What's up, girl? They grew up so much, your sisters, mashallah.
They're so funny.
Yeah, they're really cool.
They're
really
adults
cool.
now.
Yeah, that's bizarre to me.
I know. It's crazy. She said heart. Aww. So what are let's just talk about specific things that you write about and that you would want to share with people.
Yeah, so a lot of what I write about are issues that impact women. I'm not going to lie and sit here and say that I write about Palestine or Israel.
Yeah.
You know, I don't write about those things.
Yeah.
The reason I don't write about those things is because, of course, you know, I mourn for my Muslim brothers and sisters, but what affects me directly are the issues that impact women directly.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, just collectively as a Muslim community, we are very hyper-focused on countries that aren't here.
Yeah.
And there's a poem that I wrote. I haven't really memorized it, but it's... you know, we speak about wars in foreign lands, but we don't speak about the wars that are inside of our homes.
Yeah.
And, you know, thank you. That's a poem that I wrote because it's true. Like, we don't, and our homes doesn't necessarily have to be, like, where our families are. Our homes are inside of our hearts as well. Yeah. The things that hurt our hearts. And that's what I write about, too. And, of course, a lot of what I write about, again, is violence against women. But other things too, like just heartbreak, loss, you know, many different things I write about. Yeah. But I think a lot of what I write is, you know, the gender and gender violence and things like that.
And I think that's the thing. In terms of social justice, there are so many, unfortunately, so many issues, right, to tackle. And I think that it can become extremely overwhelming when you feel like there's so much and I don't know how to address all of it. And realizing you're one person. Like, you don't need to address all of it, but just address what affects you or address what you have influence over and be impactful.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it. Like, that's how I write what I write about because, like, okay, this is impacting me, and I'm one of 7 billion people around the world. Yeah. The likelihood of just that impacting myself is extremely slim.
Extremely low,
Yeah, so that's why
and that is with pretty much everything that you deal with.
Yeah.
Let's take some comments. Molly, social justice for women is so important.
Yes, it is.
That's true. Christina said, I love that. Social justice isn't for social media, it's for societal issues.
Absolutely. Shout out to Christina. Christina's awesome.
She's
so awesome.
She literally is. We've got Salam. Yeah.
Walaikum assalam.
Yeah, societal issues. I mean, that's what this is about. That's the reason why I wanted to do Digging Deeper, because I feel like if we can, as a community, come together and be reflective and really think deeply about these things, about these issues, and in our own lives do something that can influence or impact the people around us.
Right, and humanizing the topic, that's a big thing as well. I think that we become really interested in statistics and numbers, and we want to talk about things in terms of numerics, but that's not really relatable, right? Like, you can talk about how 1 in 5 women will be sexually assaulted in their life. You can talk about how, you know, a certain percentage of the world's population doesn't even have access to clean water. Yeah. But when you humanize the concept and you say, okay, a little boy could not get water for his mother, and you humanize it and you put it in storytelling form, it becomes a lot more relatable to people, and people really pay attention to that. And just even like a recent issue, for example, like Emma Gonzalez from the Parkland shooting, she was this girl who came forward and was like, I was impacted directly by this. I saw that some of my classmates died, and she was able to humanize the concept of gun violence. I think that's why it's so powerful. And, you know, unfortunately, like, we're in this society where we're all about numbers and quick and, like, this statistic, that, you know, and we're not really talking about the stories that people can relate to.
I think that's so important. Christina said, guys, heart.
Hi,
Alex. That is so important, storytelling. I was applying for a grant recently, and it was for, like, podcasts and whatnot for women of color specifically. So I saw that and I jumped on it. But one of the questions that they asked was, like, what podcasts are the ones that inspire you and stick out to you? And so I wrote about storytelling. Like, for me, a podcast or a video series or whatever, even in poetry or even music, that which sticks out to me is that which tells a story.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
And not just any story, but an emotional human story.
Yeah. That's so funny that you brought up, like, the podcast that you gravitate to. Yeah. So one of my favorite podcasts, and this is so bizarre, I don't know if you've heard of Drink Champs.
No.
By Noriega. Like, so Noriega is this, like... He's this, you know, rapper. He sang that song, like, oh boy, you came to party. That guy. Okay. Yeah, so he has his own podcast, right? And this is so bizarre and on a tangent. But I love his podcast because he invites all these rappers to come on.
Yeah.
And they are the best storytellers.
Yeah.
They talk about, like, they talk about groupies and drugs and whatever. But I love it because they tell a story. They're not just like, I sold these many records. Like, they're telling about their own story. Yeah, and I love that. So, and I think, like, with your podcast in particular, you're not just asking about the art form. You're asking for the person to share their story as well. Yeah, and one of the quotes that I live by that I think you'll really like is by Muriel Rukeyser. Mm-hmm. And she said this amazing quote that I live by, that the world is not made of atoms. The world is made of stories. When you think about the history of the world, you're not just talking about things on a molecular level, on a scientific level. You're talking about things in terms of, like, the stories that people have to tell that get passed on from generation to generation.
That's so true. Like, that's funny. I gotta look that up. Yes, we got a comment. What you speak about, Aishah, needs to be brought to light in all of our masjids more often. Women issues are always put on the back burner. Yep. Well, physically, they're also put on the back burner because so many spaces have women in a closet. And that's just a physical representation, right, of what's spiritually going on.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Speaking of, I went to this mosque in Chicago, and they had no space for the women to pray. Like, I felt like I was back home in India.
Was this on Devon Street?
This was, of course it was on Devon Street.
Because there's a few masjids there, and once I went there some years ago, and I had to just stand on the stairs, like, just sit there because there was no place for me to go.
Yeah, it's really bizarre. And I remember one of my friends was telling me about, her and her cousins, they went to, I think it was Juhi who told me, they went to this masjid on Devon Street, and it was for Jummah or something like that. And literally the only woman in this mosque was, like, the resident jinn lady who, they walked in, they opened the door, and it was just this woman who had, like, her hair, like the ring, like Samara from the Ring. She just had hair in front of her face. And that was the only woman in the mosque. I was like, God, like...
That's just creepy.
Women can pray, too. They don't have to just be witches in the masjid. Like,
they need
so
space.
Bizarre. Yeah, they need space to just...
And the thing that amazed me the most is... So I've traveled quite a bit, especially when I was in college. I traveled a lot, especially through the Middle East, because my specialty and my, like, certification and all is in language and Arabic language and culture and whatever. Right. So... For me, the most beautiful thing to see was when I went to Palestine and when I went to Masjid al-Aqsa. And it's one of the oldest masjids. And it's got these huge doors, and it's a huge open prayer space. Wow. Men and women go through the same doors. And when prayer is done, you'll see circles of people sitting and talking and doing classes or, like, whatever you have. SubhanAllah, and it's all mixed. Like, it's men and women sitting together. It's just open space, kids just running around. Right. And that, to me, is so amazing. And it was really ironic because you come back to the U.S. and you think, oh, we're supposed to be more modern and we're supposed to be this and that. But a lot of our masjids aren't reflective of that. They're not. But they are, like... Messages of the older times were like that. Absolutely. And that goes to the point of, obviously I'm not a scholar. I don't know much about fiqh. I'm not going to sit here and act like I do. Yeah. But there's an ayah in the Quran that says that, if you save a life, it will be as if you saved all of mankind. Yeah. And when you think about that in context, Islam is a very family-based religion. It's a very, like, not just family in the nuclear sense, but in the communal sense as well. And when you talk about Al-Aqsa and how, men and women both are in classes and the children are running around, that's very exemplary for communities all around the world. And it's unfortunate that we've now, like, isolated people based on their gender, and based on their age.
I know that even, I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but even
That's
with,
fine.
our masjid, right?
Yeah.
My brother wanted to pray first row, and they said, no, go to the back. Because he is not of that age bracket where you can pray in the first row.
Yeah, I had my nieces with me and they did the same thing. They were like, no,
Yeah.
tell them to go to the back because they were, under 10. And I
Right.
was like, but they wanted to be there.
Yeah, of course, the first stuff is so important for so many people.
Yeah.
And my little brother was like, yeah, I felt like whatever. I'm like, listen, dude, it sucks that it has to be that way right now. But, unfortunately, a lot of these uncles, let them have their time.
Let them have their time.
Let them have their time.
Cool. We got tons of stuff. Let's see. Beautiful quote, Gufrana. So, how did having only sisters and only brothers growing up impact your view of gender roles? Interesting, because I only have sisters and you only have brothers.
I only have brothers, yeah. I have 3 brothers.
And
you want to go first? Because I'm curious, too.
I don't think you guys can answer that question.
I know, because we have such differing... Well, I ask because I pretty much grew up in a female-dominated household, and my view on gender took such a huge, different view after getting married. Interesting.
Wow, okay.
Well,
Wow.
I personally feel like I didn't know or understand men for most of my life. And I think that wasn't just because we were all sisters, but I think also because I just grew up in a pretty conservative community, and I felt like I didn't get that many experiences until college when I started traveling and meeting other people. So I think in terms of gender roles, I don't know, it's interesting because I do believe that I was always very feminist. And it's funny because my dad was super supportive of me traveling. He was supportive of me getting educated, of even when I got divorced, for those of you guys who don't know me, I've been married twice. Second time's the charm, let me tell you. But when I got married and divorced the first time, so culturally, especially in Southeast Asian culture, it's you got to go back home, live with your family.
Your life is over if you're divorced.
And my parents, especially my dad more so, was extremely supportive. I had bought out my first home when I was 24. And for me, that was my pride and joy. I bought this thing. I worked so hard for it, and I'm not moving. I bought this home. I'm staying in it, and that's it. And my mom asked me to move back home. My dad didn't dare because he knew that the answer was going to be no.
Wow.
So
Mashallah.
It's interesting. I think that I had just always been super feminist, and even though my parents do take very traditional gender roles, I don't think they ever stopped me from veering outside of that. If that makes sense.
No, that absolutely makes sense. For me, it was a little bit different. So, of course, I grew up with 3 brothers, and all of us are within 5 years. So my oldest brother is 31. My second oldest brother is 30. I'm 28, and my little brother is 27, I think.
You guys are all
We're all and then my
That's
parents also had a daughter that was a stillborn, their first child. So it's really interesting because with me, my father only wanted girls.
Really?
He only wanted girls.
Same here.
Yeah.
And he only got girls.
Yours only, he only got girls, but my dad got 3 sons and 1 girl, right? So, of course, I grew up in an environment where my femininity was very apparent. I was the only girl amongst all boys.
Yeah.
I obviously took on a lot of masculine traits where I'm very, I squash beef after one day.
Yeah.
With girls, we fight and then we don't talk to the person for 6 years.
Yeah.
But with men, they'll fight and then the next day they'll be over it, right? So I was kind of that way as well. And it was really difficult for me to find friends, I guess, in the beginning because I didn't understand females. I understood the male perspective.
Because that's what you were around
Because that's what I was around, And my father, of course, has been very supportive. Obviously, they're from India. They have Persian roots, so they're very much very linear in their approach to traditional gender roles. But they've always been supportive of me, doing what I do and going outside of what's considered the cultural norm. So,
That's so interesting. So, you knew guys, you knew men.
Because
you were raised.
You make it sound
not in a come on guys, calm down. But in the sense of when you have brothers, you know what they're like, especially you see them at all of those stages in life.
Of
too,
course,
you know?
yeah. And, shout out to my brothers. My brothers are so awesome. My little brother actually saw your ad on, not ad, like your
Promos,
on your feed.
your
promo, yeah. And he was like, oh my God, you're going to be at Tazeen's podcast? I was like, you're so cute, dude.
That's so funny. I really love the relationship you have with your brothers. I love what you post about them.
Mashallah,
and it's
thank you.
Yeah, it's really beautiful to have that close connection.
Yeah, they're really good men, and the good thing about my brothers is they're not, people always look at like the South Asian brother as being this like dominating guy who won't let you talk to any guy or whatever, but they've been very open with me. They're like, this is how guys think, this is how guys are. They're not like crazy controlling like a lot of South Asian brothers are, and I'm very grateful for that. So when I make my own mistake, I don't have like this male savior to help me. I learn from my own mistakes, So
do you talk to them about like the type of poetry that you write and the issues that are really important to you?
Absolutely. Yeah, we had this huge in-depth conversation about #MeToo.
Yeah.
And my brothers were like, you have 3 brothers. Like, how do you feel about the #MeToo thing? And I think that came after Aziz Ansari, the whole thing with Aziz Ansari and how there's like controversy on whether that is in fact sexual assault. We have conversations about that. I remember we had this crazy conversation about the whole knock thing.
Yeah.
They all came in my room. I sprained my ankle that weekend, so I was handicapped essentially. So they came in my room and we all had this grand conversation about it. But it's really interesting because I get like a male perspective on a lot of things. And it's not like a biased male perspective either. They're very much, level-headed on their approaches too. So
I think to me that's one of the, I have a bunch of brothers too, said Khadija.
Oh,
so you can relate. You can type in what you think about it and how that's affected your experience.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I forgot what I was gonna say.
Yeah, that's so interesting. We are like opposites in terms of how we were raised. But we were raised into the same community. So I know like a lot of what I'm saying, Tazeen understands. A lot of what Tazeen's saying, I understand because we were socialized around the same people, the same community, same issues and everything. So.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. Yeah. When you have some sort of social justice issue that is impacting a certain sector of society. So right now we're talking about women. Or, you could be talking about racial issues. About how black people are affected by white supremacy and people of color in general.
Absolutely.
Right? It doesn't mean that the conversation is going to exclude people who are not part of that segment, but what it does mean is that those people need to be listening, and I think that's what's really important. If you're talking about issues of domestic violence against women in specific, and men want to be a part of that conversation, it's just important that they don't dominate the conversation.
Right.
That you're a part of it and you're listening to it because it takes both sides of the spectrum to fix the issue. And the side that is dominating or creating the issue more so, needs to be really open to listening and open to saying, okay, you're not attacking me personally, but this is a social issue and we as a group need to figure it out.
Right. Yeah, 100%. And I think I don't like the idea of exclusive spaces for specific races or specific genders because the conversation has to be community-based. Yeah. And there's no way anyone can listen if everybody in the room is feeling the same thing. Yeah. We have to have a conversation. Like you were talking about race. It's so unfortunate because there's so many Muslim spaces that claim to be inclusive,
but absolutely not.
Are absolutely not. And we definitely have to start talking about that. Definitely need to start inviting more diverse people, not just diverse in their professions, but diverse in their viewpoints as well. And specifically, I'm talking about race too. Yeah. How rare is it that we will invite someone who may be from the nation, or how rare is it that we may be inviting someone who is a black nationalist? It's so rare that we do that. How rare is it that we invite someone who's actively a part of the Black Lives Matter movement? We never ever do that, and the reason we don't do that is because we refuse to listen.
Unmosqued. #unmosqued. Like that one event that happened, I think it was in Canton, and it was about
oh my god, are you talking about Daniel?
No, not even that. This was during Black History Month. and it was about Black History Month, but the person was white. And
Stop. Are you kidding me?
And I was so upset. And not just me, but a bunch of people. Like, how are you going to say that we're being diverse and we are going to listen to different perspectives, but then we are going to tell a story through someone else's perspective? Like,
are you talking about like a Rachel Donzel situation?
Basically.
Oh my God.
And to say it's fine. It doesn't mean that, if you're not Black, you can't study racial issues, or you can't study white supremacy, or you can't study Black history and whatnot and not know that. But at the same time, like, centering narratives within a group by that group is so crucial.
Absolutely.
So even though you're talking about, like having a conversation and opening it up to everyone, I also see the flip side of it. And certain times, like having exclusive spaces, I think breeds... like, it allows for people to be a little bit more honest and open.
Yes.
Yes. Because you may have people who are oppressive or from a group that has been traditionally oppressive, and then you feel like you can't be completely honest. So it's like, I see both sides of that.
Yeah. No, I know in terms of, like, especially, women's-based issues, I remember that there was a workshop that was about sexual health and things like that, that was only for women. Yeah. I was like, okay, you know what would be so dope? Of course, like, women are going to talk about sexual health in a comfortable setting amongst other women. Yeah. But on the flip side, it would be so dope if we had something of that nature for men as well. Yes. Yeah. Yes. So it doesn't have to just exclusively be for women.
Because it affects men too. And that's one thing that would really bother me when I was younger, is you would hear, like, there's a lecture or a workshop about women in Islam, or about the role of women, right? But then there aren't, on the flip side, the role of men. What does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to take care of responsibilities if you believe that those are responsibilities that are bestowed upon you? What does it mean to be just, as a man, and what does it mean to be just as a woman? Right. And to only focus on women and socialize women to be of marital, you're marriageable and you're moldable. Like, I remember growing up and hearing, women have to be moldable. They have to be like water. You have to be able to fit in any container. And it's like, what? You trying to contain me? No.
Yeah. I mean, like, of course, same with me. Like, okay.
My husband's like, there's no container for you.
Yeah. Yeah, there's, like, no container for a woman because we're human beings. Like, we have feet, we have hands, we can go anywhere. So there's no sort of, women have choices now. I know that's hard for people to fathom, but, like, women have choices now, So.
And have always had the ability to make the choice, but people don't respect it. Yes. Right? It's not that you can't make a choice, it's that people don't respect you for it.
Yeah, people don't respect you because they believe that you should have the understanding of a woman's place being at home and quiet and submissive. And people really don't, a lot of people don't really like a woman who challenges that notion. So.
And it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
We're like,
it is very unfortunate.
We've got two men in the background just listening. If you guys have anything, you can always... Mike.
This is time to be quiet.
Mark is very smart. You very smart. Not saying anything.
You smart. You is kind.
To say, you know what? But that's important too. To say, you know what? I'm gonna listen.
Yeah. Yeah, just listening goes a long way. That's what I'm saying. Like, just listen to my perspective. Understand where I'm coming from. That's it. Yeah. That's all women ask for. Like, I think, especially in our community, feminism is seen as, like, this crazy F word that might as well be 4 letters. Yeah. But it's not. Like, I hate when people try to support feminism by talking about their mothers or their sisters or whatever. Because half the world's population is women. So how are you going to mobilize and change the world if you're denying women of their rights, That's all feminism is. Feminism isn't asking for men to be on the back burner. Not at all. Feminism is simply asking for respect, for an understanding of women.
For those equal rights.
That's it.
And I think
that's it.
That it's the same thing, I think, too. Like, if you come after, it's not even like we're coming after men, right? We're coming after a societal structure, an institution. These are institutions that have created these systems that have oppressed women. Yeah. And it's the same way with institutions that have oppressed black people in the United States. And people who talk about, like, Black Lives Matter and we need racial justice. And then you get people who are freaking out because they think, oh, it means you're taking away something from me, or you're, you know, and it's not saying that. Like, you're not taking away your privilege, you're not taking away this and that. You're saying that privilege is equally for everyone.
Right. Like, all that, God, I'm going to swear, like, all that all lives matter bullshit. Like, I mean, there's certain lives that in the public arena people see as more valuable. Like, none of us are going to deny the fact that white lives are considered more valuable than black lives. Yeah. And we have to denounce that by stating that black lives matter. Yeah. Because, you know, our black bodies are seen as less valuable than a white body. So that's all that, and it's like same concepts between feminism and Black Lives Matter, because women are seen as oppressed on an international scale, no matter where you go, even in America too. Like, as progressive as America may seem, there are a lot of injustices for women. I mean, women get paid how much more less than a man who does equal responsibilities. So denouncing that everywhere is important.
Thoughts?
Yeah. She just hit the nail on the head. Like, me growing up in America being black, I don't really want to
just come closer.
We have a guest. Okay.
Right.
You guys know Mike.
And me growing up in America being African American or of African descent, I was always fighting for, like, just equality. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
And when I was going to high school, in the late 80s, 90s, the police brutality, we were getting beat up by the police. So I was like a freedom fighter and fighting for my human rights, but I was watching my mother in my own household fight for her own rights as a woman. She was a housewife. You know, like a lot of women in her generation were, and they were stuck. They were so-called like barefoot pregnant in the kitchen. Not even any money to go get like a pack of cigarettes or a pop. You had to ask the man. So I was watching her fight for her rights. She ended up going back to school and getting her RN. So she used education as her way for like financial independence.
Right.
And with the financial independence, they gave her a lot of independence in general and stuff. So
a lot more options.
Just when you mention that, we both were in the same house fighting for two different type of rights, and I seen eye to eye with her, like with what she was fighting for and everything, because she would just talk to me. I want my own money. Yeah, to go to the store. When I want to go somewhere, I want my own gas money and everything.
Right.
And then the freedom that if she isn't happy in her situation, her relationship, where she can
say, I don't need to be here.
I don't need to be here. So it, like, when I hear the word feminism, I don't even really think on it, because it's like everybody deserves equal, you know what I mean, rights and everything.
Right.
But it's very important for women to keep on pushing, because we aren't there yet.
Yeah.
It's not an even playing field.
Oh, not at all. I mean, I believe a lot of progress has been made.
Some has been made.
Yeah,
but there's so much more.
There's so much more. Yeah, and not recognizing that is a huge flaw that we have as a country and as, you know, a Muslim population, just so many different things. I mean, he was talking about, you know, your mother being an African American woman.
Yeah.
I firmly believe, I'm not black. I'm not going to sit here and act like I understand what black women go through. I will never say that. Yeah. But I firmly believe that black women in this country, I don't know if it was Malcolm X who said this, I don't remember, but they're the most oppressed people in this country.
Absolutely.
Not only are you dealing with the fact that you are black, you are dealing with the fact that you are a black woman.
And a woman, period. Yeah.
Exactly.
So both of those. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. No, that's
Starseed Yogis are on. Hey. Bruh, in the background again. Yeah, he's always there. If you haven't,
He's cool.
If you haven't watched Mike's episode, he was the second episode, and it was
I watched his
really, really great episode on history of jazz. Wow, so true what he just said. Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Reem is on too.
Oh, what's up, Reem? I'm still supposed to visit Reem. I feel so bad.
You got to. I was
have
just there
to.
yesterday.
Yeah.
The most disrespected and unprotected black women. Yeah,
yes.
That's
okay.
What it was.
Who said that? Was it Malcolm X?
I believe it was Malcolm X.
It was Malcolm X. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So,
that's true. We got another comment. I've gotten rishtas meaning like suitors for marriage, that made it clear that they didn't want me to work, and when I said that I plan on working, they disappeared.
Oh, gosh.
Preach it, girl. Preach it.
Yeah. So on the flip side of that, though, what Noni was saying, I'm just going to say this, it's kind of public knowledge, but I was almost engaged. And the reason it did not go through was because I was not a doctor, or I didn't have like a doctorate in my name.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so, it's interesting because Noni is saying that they don't want her to work and that her education is invalid. Yeah. But then on the flip side, a lot of women are facing the backlash of your education is too less. But inevitably, you're just going to have to be at home barefoot and pregnant with your degree.
Yeah.
And, that's one of the things I'm grateful for my father for. He was like, nah, this is not going through.
Goodbye.
Like, I don't care.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
Doors that way.
Even if she was, like, these requirements are just going to keep piling up. So.
And the fact that, like, we put these requirements of what a person on paper should look like.
Oh, yeah.
This is what my spouse needs to be like. This is what, whatnot.
Yeah.
And it takes the human element out of that process.
Right.
At the core, what is that person's value system?
Right.
What do they believe in? How do they behave? How do they treat, how do they treat people that they're close to versus strangers? How do they treat their mother? How do they treat their father? I feel like those things are so, so much more important.
Yeah.
And of course, like, Mike is talking about financial stability. Financial stability, I'm not going to say it's not important. It is important.
Yeah.
Like, I can say personally, after having gone through a period of life where, you're living paycheck to paycheck and you don't know if you're going to make it, to going to a stage where you do feel a little bit more comfortable, it is important. But it's not to say that it's the most important thing.
Oh, yeah. It's not important. I mean, I've been in that predicament as well where I honestly was living paycheck to paycheck to paycheck and could barely, like, pay my car note.
Yeah.
And I'm very fortunate, but I'm fortunate for those difficult times as well, because I think I firmly believe that's when I was the most creative, and that's where I was really able to harness my pain and make something out of it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, pain is what teaches us. That's our first teacher is pain.
Yeah.
Those traumatic and difficult experiences, just look at it as a healing or
your worst experience is your best lesson. Like, no matter what you're going through, as difficult as it is, it always teaches you something.
Love it.
Yeah.
Know that you're going to learn something from it.
Absolutely.
Oh my God, love that. Thank you, sister. So before we do the expression part, are there any last thoughts that you want to share?
Are there any questions?
If anyone has any questions, or if there's anything that you want to just wrap it up
there.
in.
Ooh. Truth. Aaliyah. I love Aaliyah.
While you are thinking of your last thoughts, there is, I will put it out. Zarina sent this to me. There is an event by I think it's called the Haya Foundation, I want to say.
Or Hawa?
Is it? Hawa. Yeah, Hawa. That's what it is. And they're doing an event that's coming up. I don't have the immediate details on me right now because I'm using my phone for this.
I actually have it. I was a part of Hawa. Still am, kind of, sort of. Okay. So I want to share details. So this is an incredible organization for everyone that's in the Metro Detroit area. Hawa specifically addresses the needs of Muslim women that are impacted by violence. But it's not just restricted to violence. It's not just women who are impacted by abuse. Yeah. It could be women facing financial difficulty as well. So definitely want to share the information for that.
Yes, please do.
And also, while I'm finding that, next Thursday I will be speaking at an event for sexual violence in the Muslim community. and it will be in Dearborn too. Okay. So
definitely
are
if you share all the details with me for both of those events, I will link them. It'll be on the website, the Facebook, the Instagram, all that stuff.
So this is the Hawa, but obviously people can't see that.
No, just tell them.
Okay, yeah, so it's Hawa's first fundraising dinner. Tarika founded the organization. Shout out to Tarika. Saturday, April 14th at 5:30 p.m. Okay. It's going to be at the Doubletree Hilton in Detroit, Dearborn. So definitely make sure you come.
Yeah.
Raising funds for a very much needed initiative.
Yeah.
So...
And, you know, for anyone who feels like they don't have, their expression is not written, you know, if poetry is not your thing, it's fine. Like, not everyone writes poetry, not everyone writes music, but maybe you have the financial means, and that's a way that you can be active and be an advocate for people in need. Like, spend on people and give to people and let that be your means of activism.
Yeah, and even if it's not monetary, there's so much more that people can do as well. Yeah, just sharing stories, time, energy, volunteering. You know, there's so many different ways that you could be active. It doesn't necessarily have to be a financial contribution at all.
And using your social media to tell people about it.
100%.
There you go.
Yeah.
So use that.
Well,
yeah.
Well.
And we're back.
Hey.
People will come back on. It's fun, you know. It's been quite a journey figuring out how all this stuff works and what's like the best way to do it. And
I think it's amazing what you're doing, though. I don't want to sit here and make this just by myself. Tazeen I've seen you for 20 years, mashallah. The growth, the artistic expression that she puts out there, it's incredible. You guys definitely need to check out her work. See her live. It's just amazing. You do a lot of great stuff. And innovative, cutting-edge stuff. It's not like some redundant halakha stuff, you know? Yeah. So it's great what you do.
I did stop doing that a long time. You know why I stopped? I used to speak a lot, and I stopped doing that because I felt like I don't like to be in that position where I'm speaking about something and I felt like I was dealing with issues of arrogance and it was hurting my heart, and I felt like it just wasn't the space for me to be in. And for me, I just wanted to express myself in other ways that were more authentic and genuine and organic.
Yeah. No, it takes a lot to realize that and see that among yourself, you know. And I think I said this earlier, like, you have to be honest about yourself with yourself, right?
You have to.
So I have to be honest about myself with myself for many different things. You know, I think like recently, specifically in the last 6 months, I went through a crazy journey. Like, I went through a breakup. I went through just crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I lost a lot of my friends.
Yeah.
So, yeah, poetry has definitely been an outlet for me to express my emotions as well as deal with what I'm dealing with internally. Yeah. And being humble about it in the process, too.
That's the thing.
A lot.
Being humble and being honest. You can't... How do you expect to be humble in spaces with other people and honest with other people if you can't be honest with yourself?
200%. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You are a great speaker, though. Yeah,
She is.
I teach, so I feel like I talk every day to people. Today, like my Tuesdays and Thursdays, actually, the days that I do Digging Deeper are my longest days.
Yeah.
And I'm on my feet for 6 hours teaching and talking and doing all this stuff, and I feel so tired and drained. But Digging Deeper has always been rejuvenating because I feel like having these conversations with people.
Yeah, it's conversational. You're not like lecturing someone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's free, sort of free flow and organic.
Yeah.
So I like that.
I never felt like I was just sort of like
you're like, okay, rehearsed. She's gonna ask me all these
questions.
Yeah, I
even brought a notebook, guys. I was so prepared. And look, like, I brought a Shinola notebook, so you know it's about to be real. So like,
I got my moleskin. I was like, oh my god, little moleskin.
Yeah, but I never even. I love moleskin notebooks, best notebooks ever. But I never even looked at it. I looked and glanced, but yeah, it was like a free flowing convo.
Whatever is coming to you.
Yep.
Just receive. That's the thing. Be open to receive what the universe is giving to you.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah. And, like, when you receive something, you automatically feel like you have to give back, too.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely.
That's always a good thing.
Cool. Look at everybody coming back. LOL. Shanola is my favorite.
Same, girl.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Aslan. And Reem. All right. So I'm going to move out the way and let you share.
Ooh, so I'm going to share my poem?
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously I want to maintain the dialogue about women, right? So This is a poem called Gazelle Among Wolves. I'm going to provide some context about it. So Gazelle Among Wolves is sort of a play on words. It talks about how women are seen as very, like soft and sweet and little gazelles that are going along the field. And men are like wolves, like they will eat you alive any chance they get. So that's what the title is, Gazelle Among Wolves. So I'm going to share it with you guys. Okay, ready. Ready. Okay. So quiet, so the girl was good. She was a very good girl. Silence never spoke because she doesn't speak. Because good girls don't say a thing, not even a peep. They ask her to stay still and not bite, to not argue that rights are distant lands and deserted women stand on borders too loud to be loved. A father tells a daughter, don't be like your mother, but you grow up to watch your mother suffer, and you begin to hate men except for your brother. My soul is a map for you to escape from. You reach your destination, and you stay a while only to leave and discard the map on your way home. Because really, no matter how far you go, you always find your way back to where you came from. Where on me does it say, use as you please and leave as you came? They see us labeled from broken homes and broken families, so they take it as though we can handle a broken heart. When they come to you and they touch you and say to you, it is always your fault. And when you are screaming silently inside, it is always you who needs to change. The world is different now, they say, but some things always stay the same. There has always been a burden with being born. A little girl broken always grows up to be a woman scorned. I carry my scarlet letter proudly, a soldier of my own history. Sticks and stones do not break me, and words are what make up my poetry. So you cannot kill a writer, similar to how you cannot shame a martyr. I sold pages with ink because I could not talk back to my father. But do you know how a girl like me was raised? I was humbled through loss before I knew what it was to win. I learned hate before I could love. I felt guilt before I could have pride. They still ask me why I cannot let love in. What is it that I am looking for, and to compromise myself for somebody else? But you cannot teach a snake to not bite, and you cannot teach a bird to stay still. Hey! Thank you. I have another one. I was going to do like a couple for everybody.
Yeah, do it.
Let's see here.
Assalamu alaikum, this is Tazeen's mom. Hey, nice
Assalamu
hearing
alaikum,
you.
auntie.
I'm so proud of you,
Yeah,
girls.
I miss your mom.
Thanks, Mom.
Your mom is so awesome.
She
Mashallah. She's really cool.
That she is.
Let's try to find it. But yeah, there was a poem I wrote kind of on a whim. Let's see. Coffee Beauty. Okay. Let's see what pulls up.
That's always fun when you go through your phone and you're like,
Yeah.
I forgot that I wrote this. I wrote this?
Oh, God. Okay. So this is like, I wrote this in response to the knock thing.
Okay.
And it's kind of vulgar, but, obviously, like, I received a lot of backlash for what I was writing about, because people are like, how can you have the audacity to speak about a religious leader? And people call me all sorts of names. I received all sorts of, messages and everything. Yeah. So one thing about me, I don't just do poetry in free form or rhyming form. I actually freestyle as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know.
All right.
It's really bizarre, but I freestyle too. So I kind of wrote this rap/poem about the whole knock backlash. So it's kind of vulgar. I hope you guys enjoy it. So hope y'all ready. Both these guys are like, what? All right. Call me a bitch, a slut, a whore, butcher my name like slaughter, wash your mouth out with some soap and call that holy water. Call out leadership for hypocrisy, get called a drama starter. So tell me, is it still drama if it's a man who could hurt your daughter? Silence me, silence all of us. Put your hand on me, put a hand on all of us. Tell me I should shut up and should know my place. That's when I take this padlock and pummel your face. Or you're not about violence? Well, I'm not about silence. I'm going to take this car called Justice and put on mad mileage. Swerve in and out of lanes, only brake as if I catch a light. Only time I take a seat is when I kneel for what's right. The bitch title is for flatter. The slut label won't make me shatter. The whore name doesn't matter. Still all over the place like paint splatter. Can't box me in with the former or latter. Breathe, that was too many rhymes, not a ghostwriter, but I can make you lines. So you take... So you can take this here and use it to feel empowered. When it's time to take a stand, are you a hero or a coward? Yo.
Oh, my.
Bars.
Oh, my. Girl, rap it for real. That's what Reem said.
Listen. You need to cut that out of the segment because that would make my mom so mad. So,
but that was you sharing your truth.
That was my truth with vulgarity. Yeah. Absolutely.
We don't, do you want to share something else?
Sure. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, we don't, what do you call, censor people.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Wow, well I found my place here.
This is your truth. Speak your truth.
Yo, I censored a lot of stuff. So I have like a terrible habit of cussing. So I definitely
toned it down
today. Okay, so this is like another long one. This is called, I don't even think this has a name. So, yeah, it's untitled. This is untitled. You taught your children that the world is evil, that kindness is laced with expectation. So you had your sons expect skin when they buy dinner, and you had your daughters give their bodies as currency. When they lay awake at night, reminiscing the lessons you taught them and the contradiction behind every word, you begin to wonder whether your whole life was a lie. Did you remember how you created me? Was it out of love or was it out of apathy? In dark days, I recall my darkest moments, strong masculine hands on my body when I commanded strongly to please don't. I wondered what kindness I had given him to make him think he could take what he thought he so rightfully deserved. Maybe my hands are not raised high enough to heaven. God cannot answer prayers he cannot hear. So I scream in empty fields, remote islands, and isolated roads. You cannot see what you do not know, and I cannot show you what you do not understand. The therapist asks me, when did it fall apart? I tell her that nobody wants to love what they are forced to fix. I'm not a chore for someone to piece back together. When I asked my mother to comfort me when I cried, she denied me so that I could learn to rely on myself. I tell the therapist I was 7. There's a quiet protest that is held by the children who wonder if what they are taught is fact and if what they see is fiction. So your sons hold open doors and your daughters start to have expectation. Yet you still lay awake regretting everything you taught them because you know that your children would never listen. What do you do when the mere miracle, the sheer beauty of life is waking up? Will you appreciate life more? Will you kiss each opportunity deeply and embrace all that surrounds you warmly? Or are you a product of all that you were taught and all that you cannot run from? I think I wrote this. Yeah, that was like, I think that was like parental therapy. I think that's what it's called.
That was
So
sharing gems with us.
Sharing gems.
Oh, I got a bunch of people.
Yo, I'm like mad embarrassed about that.
No.
/
Don't.
Knock traversy.
We gave you approval. Did we approve?
Yeah.
We approved. No, I always applaud everyone who comes here and shares their truth, because I think that that's the most important thing. If you can be honest and share with us what is within you, I think that is a very, very beautiful way of creating connectivity and creating community. You know, and to increase understanding between people and one another, because at the end of the day, that's what's most important. Can I just listen and understand and accept you?
Right,
you
that's
know?
it.
Like,
that's it.
And just leave it at that. Reem
Acceptance is huge.
Acceptance is huge.
Reem,
so with that, that's the end of the episode. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course, thank you.
I really appreciate
you guys. Oh, let me do a selfish little plug here.
Yeah, please do.
My Instagram,
which is
all
there.
I'm like such a fame whore right now. My Instagram is at Aishah Gulam. So it is my first name. Oh, I should probably spell it for people that only know how to spell Joe Smith. It's AISHAHGULAM as in Michigan.
Cool.
That's my
And
IG handle.
You know, all her IG stuff is linked, so you can click it. She definitely, I love the stuff that you post. The little snippets.
Thank you
I
so
think
much.
they're really important. They're really profound.
Oh, thank you.
I know he's always reading. You'd be surprised, but you know, definitely check her out. Be supportive. Yeah. That's what we need, especially if you're a woman. let's just love one another and support one another.
I need to tell people something right now. I was listening to her podcast that are on iTunes.
Yes, they are.
So make sure you go on iTunes and you look up her podcast and just download it on your phone. And these are amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Without the face, it still
you.
sounds amazing.
Yeah, I put it in podcast form because I did have, sometimes people don't have time to just watch a video, but you might be in the car and,
driving to work
and you've got time to listen. And I know they're long, they're an hour. But
no. I mean, people listen to like All Things Considered on NPR for an hour, and that stuff gets so redundant. Like,
so yeah. Support your women of color. So here we go.
Yes, the Diane Rehm show. Diane Rehm.
Always.
So bad.
Anyways, so that is it for today's episode. This is episode 10. We only have a couple episodes left in season 1, and then I'm going to wrap it up. Season 2 is going to start in June, end of June. I'm really excited. I've already got people lined up for season 2 as well. So I'm super excited. We've got like really great topics. I love your poetry so much. Today's show was so good. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the support.
Yes.
Follow Tazeen. Follow the Digging Deeper episodes.
And with that, that's a wrap. I will see you next week.
Bye, guys.
7 p.m. on the dot every Tuesday. We are here sharing expression, being reflective, creating community. So, love and peace. Take care, everybody.